Hello, and welcome to another episode of FuelMade's D2C Inspiration Series, where we're partnering up with experts to talk to founders and marketers from leading brands. I'm Tina. I lead marketing here at FuelMade. We're a Shopify agency that specializes in custom development and design, conversion rate optimization, and Klaviyo email and SMS marketing. I'm really excited about today's guest. We are being featured by Malomo, Sarah and Mariah from the Malomo team, super awesome marketers, and they're going to be chatting with Josh from Caraway Homes, amazing brand. And they're going to be talking today about the importance of clear and consistent communication. What does that mean? How to do it, and all of that important stuff for making sure you have a really great customer experience, which drives retention. So I'm super excited to let them dive into those tactics now.
So today we're joined by Josh at Caraway. So thank you for being here, Josh, and we're super excited to have you.
Thanks for having me.
First, we thought, it'd be awesome to jump in and have you tell us about what you do at Caraway, your position, and what exactly is Caraway.
Yeah, Caraway is a kitchenware brand. We launched about 2 years ago now, and we're really focused on bringing non-toxic kitchenware for your home. And so, we started with our hero cookware set that we've seen a lot of success with. And now just recently, a few weeks back, or about a month back now, expanded into bakeware, but we've seen a really strong response on. And so, for us, we see the kitchen and the broader home as our space. Starting with these non-toxic, non-stick, cooking, baking products, and really also making sure, that you have a holistic storage solution for it as well. I'm sure you, like many other people, myself included, my cabinets have been a huge mess in the past. It's the leaning tower of pots and pans. And that's something we also really try to solve there as well with our products.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. I mean, it's sometimes those cabinet doors, they're acting as a barrier so everything doesn't fall out.
Exactly.
And so what exactly, what is your position at Caraway? What do you contribute to most?
Yeah, I'm the director of growth and digital product at Caraway. I joined a little over 2 years ago before we launched to build the growth foundation for the organization. We've grown pretty tremendously since then. I was employee number 4, including our founder. Now we're in the mid 20s. And it's been really exciting, to build out a team here. But yeah, it separates, we cover a lot of ground. It includes kind of growth marketing, so acquisition and retention efforts. A lot of the data efforts for the organization are also centralized on my team, and digital product. So for us, that's kind of the core e-commerce business that makes up the vast majority of our sales, and really making sure that we can take that and evolve it kind of similar way that we would with our own marketing channels, right? We really wanted to consolidate those, integrate them, bring them under one team so we can kind of treat them the same way, take learnings from both, and kind of continue that optimization.
Yeah, sounds like, you kind of play a hand in everything. And so with that, how do you try and approach growing that retention? What's Caraway's approach when you're trying to grow into that space?
Yeah, retention's been a really interesting one for us. Since we've launched, we've had really, really strong brand loyalty, but for the longest time, we couldn't really capitalize on it. On our site now, I think we have over 20,000 reviews. We average a 4.8. And consumers just really, really love our products. And so they've been clamoring for more. And with this bakeware line that I mentioned that just launched, this was really our chance to deliver on that. So most requested product line, and the response has been tremendous. And so, we really kind of had to change gears a little bit. We're used to being an acquisition focused organization, and really think, okay, how can we capitalize on this brand loyalty with our customers? And, it's a lot harder than you'd think to, really do retention marketing effectively, right? It's not just, let's send a few emails, people will buy, it'll be great, we're done. No, you need an integrated strategy. You need an ongoing strategy, to make consumers aware. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges of retention marketing in general is, you have these channels at your fingertips, but at the end of the day, even if you have the most loyal, engaged email list, for instance, 50% of those people aren't going to open your email and most likely not even see it. And so the challenge is, okay, how can we make our customer base even aware that this new product exists, many of whom have written in surveys and reviews that they want it. And so that's kind of, challenge number one, and one that we've really dove into, from the start with the launch of this product.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense of trying to find different channels so that you get, that uniform awareness of all the different initiatives that you're doing. So you mentioned the email list and how one of those hurdles is having an open rate of 50%. And so what are some other ways that you try and launch these new, as you said, the bakeware line, and really try and get those different initiatives across multiple channels?
Yeah, so we have a couple kind of, I would say, core channels underneath our retention umbrella. So email, I mentioned, is a big one of the biggest. SMS, we've seen a lot of success with, both in the past and for this launch. We did an early access for SMS. And I remember, I think it was 7 p.m. at night or something Eastern. I was glancing on the site, and all of a sudden there were 2,500 mobile users on there just on our bakeware pages, so excited about it. And the purchases started rolling in from there. It was our very first push. And so that's kind of been really key to our success as well. It has much, much higher kind of open rates, kind of considering the more intimate it is as a medium. We do run Facebook ads and things as well for that. But two others that I think have been, really important for us, and we see as an important aspect moving forward, is direct mail. We have the addresses of everyone who we've shipped our product to, obviously. And, when you can really get a mailer that's very visual, like our product is very, very visual, and put that in front of the customer in their mailbox when it theoretically has a much, much higher open rate than email, for example, that's a really good opportunity to drive that awareness and down funnel to conversion. And so that's a channel that we've been really excited about, and one that we're investing in now and continuing to invest more. The other one is Malomo. For us, our tracking page has a tremendous amount of traffic, as customers come back again and again to check the status, to click through perhaps to our care and cleaning instructions and things like that. And so we already integrate and are continuing to integrate even more our bakeware products and new products as they come out into that Malomo tracking page. Because like I was saying, it's really all about driving that awareness. And so the challenge for, retention marketing for, launching these new products is, how do we make them aware? How do we, show consumers this product where in places that their attention is going to be? And so that is email, that's SMS, that's their mailbox, perhaps that's some digital advertising, but that's the tracking page. That's another big area of attention that consumers really have.
I love that that concentration on the direct mail, because I feel like that's something that a lot of people have gotten away from. Like I can't tell you the last time I got something in the mail that wasn't, a birthday card or something like that. And so I think especially for like cookware and bakeware, that is a very interesting route to take, because it is so like closely tied to the home, and your products are beautiful. So I can just see like having something in front of me that you can look at and just kind of picture in your own kitchen. I think that's a great avenue. And of course, we love Malomo and all the tracking page stuff like that. But I haven't heard of another brand taking that route with the direct mail.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting one. And it's one, from a measurability perspective, growth marketers love, because you have the addresses, who it's going to. You can do holdouts if you'd like. And so definitely one we're excited to invest more in moving forward.
Josh, do you think like, especially with a lot of the iOS changes and like not being able to track a lot of the traditional acquisition channels, that some of this like old school kind of direct mail things that you might not have been able to do before, or even like wanted to do before, might be kind of the future of marketing, going back to some of that like in your hands kind of marketing, like, that direct mail where you can see it, where you can feel it, you're actually interacting with the people kind of thing is, I've been hearing some of these brands saying like, yeah, it's kind of like something like maybe going back to doing some of those things we used to do.
Exactly. To put it mildly, measuring Facebook performance in the last several months since the iOS 14.5 rollout has been extremely challenging. And, measurability and targeting, were two of the biggest pros of using Facebook and why so many brands dove in there first. But those are still things that from direct mail that you can still do very, very effectively, as well as other offline mediums. So yeah, I completely agree. I think we're going to see, pretty big resurgence in offline media. And I think a lot of people are going to need to, a lot of growth marketers are going to need to expand, their knowledge, their marketing channels, and, really approach things with a much more integrated mix in order to be successful. I think it's going to be a lot harder to be just successful on Facebook, and just have that be your whole business now.
Yeah, it's definitely about thinking about creative ways and like finding ways that people are actually interacting. Like I know we are Malomo, so we're going to talk about, but that's a really great avenue to talk about where people are interacting with them. And I think traditionally you hadn't really thought about that. That's a really great way to interact with your customers and talk to them about the care of their product, talk to them about other products that you have and kind of interact with them that way. And I think, before Shipmageddon a couple of years ago, people might not have even thought about that.
Yeah, I think just like how we combine, acquisition, retention, and digital product, for us, it's all about those consumer touch points. And so those consumer touch points, it's a Facebook ad, it's a direct mailer, it's our e-commerce site, but it's also what happens after you order. So it's the emails, it's the tracking page, it's all of that. And so it's all those areas of consumer focus and attention, that we really, want to be there to capitalize on it. And one, to your point, that especially on the tracking page standpoint, has been underinvested, I think from a lot of places view it as a cost center, or a CX concern, than a marketing channel. And I think, they're really missing out on a lot of the potential there.
As we're talking about the hurdles, one thing that came to mind as well with cookware, as opposed to some like food and beverage or health and beauty products that are maybe consumed more often than cookware, I imagine that one of the other things that you have to anticipate or plan for is how to keep customers engaged and coming back with a product that's lasting for a longer time, right? Because cookware, obviously, you want it to be designed well enough that it's going to last because it's an investment. So how do you build out your customer retention strategy with that in mind? And how do you, make sure that you're having those touch points like we just discussed through different channels? But really, how do you have that goal in mind of keeping up that customer relationship?
Yeah, it's a great question. And one that's definitely a challenge for us. When we pitch, our hero cookware set, right? We say these are the 4 pots and pans. These are the only 4 pots and pans that you need. And so that, also, while it's, a great marketing pitch because it is very true, but it also, shoots us in the foot a little bit of, from a retention standpoint of, it would be very counterintuitive for us to market that and then say, oh, by the way, here's all these other pieces of cookware we want to give you. And so while there are certainly some people who want that, we really want to be consistent with how we brand things. And so for us, we have evolved, from a single product organization to a multi-product organization, but it's a much, much slower process. And while I think, in some ways that's not ideal, in others, it gives us a lot of time to learn between each launch. We actually did a direct mailer to our existing audience, starting when we launched our line of accessories, pot holders, tea towels, aprons. And we did that, I believe, maybe 6 months after our launch. And we were so blown away by the response there. That's how we integrated it into this launch. And so, now that we have these extended windows between product launches, it's a really great opportunity to, test and see what works. So the next one is kind of that much better. But yes, definitely approach it in a very different way than a brand with a much, much higher frequency of purchase.
Yeah, I think that's a great point of being able to capitalize on that time that you have so that you really can look at what went well with previous launches, like you said, with the linen line that you have. So then being able, like you said, carrying that direct mail into the new bakeware product launch. I think that's awesome. And I'm curious if you happen to know when, like with different products, what do you typically see as like the interval between buying or like purchasing for products? I'm not sure if you have that stat at the ready.
Yeah, it really depends. So, we have our VIPs who order instantly, right? Like those people who they get the text, they see bakewares there, they buy it. And, that's a fair amount of people. But, as we kind of get towards, the larger parts of our customer base, it takes more time, more marketing, in order to kind of push them over the edge, right? And so I think that's kind of on us as marketers to make sure that we do a great job of telling that story and making them informed, of it in the first place. But yeah, it definitely is. It is a challenge. And I think over time, as we go through, we try to figure out what messaging works best, what channels work best, but also acknowledge that at the end of the day, a huge portion, most likely a majority of your customer base will not rebuy the next product in situations like this. Definitely different for a subscription business or something like makeup or apparel or something like that. But if we had, for instance, 50-70% of people buy the bakeware, that would be a massive, massive win. And it's something, that uptake rate, that we're definitely tracking kind of as we get further from the launch. We're really looking at that, the returning customer cohort separately, of course, and our new customer cohort, and trying to really get that number up as much as possible. But yeah, for us in general, from a business perspective, right, it's hard to evolve from a single product organization, right? And, I think one of the first ones that would come to mind would be mattresses. The mattress companies, when they launched, when people think of Casper, they think of a mattress. They've come out with some products since then, some of which are really great. I own Casper sheets, for instance, but, it's really hard to evolve from that. And so that's why, I think we're really learning right now what it takes, and really trying to diversify the business as a whole, evolve from, a cookware brand to a kitchenware brand, and eventually just a home brand.
Yeah, that's a great point of seeing how things have to, like, how you can evolve that brand image or that brand story that you're saying. So with the new product launch, I'd love to dive into that. And I know it was just sort of released, but just to dive in and see, what have you been seeing initially and just initial reactions to that?
Yeah, we've had a really strong response. And what's been interesting was, like many brands right now, we're facing huge challenges on the supply chain front. And so we actually launched bakeware with a pretty sizable back order period. It was about a month long, month to a month and a half. And people still bought it. They put the money up and they still bought it. And, at this point, we're about 4 weeks post-launch. We're seeing people continue to buy it, even as our most popular SKUs are shipping December 30th. And it's now October 20th, and that's the kind of loyalty I was talking about, right? People really, really want this. They're going to pay off that credit card statement and probably 2 after it before they even receive this set, which is going to be post-holiday. And so we've been really, really blown away by the response. And so, facing those supply chain challenges combined with, how much we under forecasted the product has been definitely a challenge, but a good problem to have, definitely in the scheme of things here.
So would you say, like, would you attribute to a lot of that of having customers be comfortable with them receiving their products, months down the line, of just having such good quality product and, giving resources to your customers on how to take care of, their cookware, and already having that experience versus perhaps being a first-time buyer?
Yeah. I think, on one side, I think we got a lot of consumers very used to it when our original back order for cookware started in April of 2020, shortly after kind of COVID had begun. As more and more consumers were inside and cooking from home, they really looked to home brands, and cookware was a category that saw substantial growth as people were, spending a lot more time cooking. And so we've kind of used that time to optimize our backorder messaging since then, to focus on the urgency, be as transparent as possible, all the way from our product page to checkout to emails, transactional emails after everything. And we feel like we've optimized that process pretty well since then. But also to your point, I think, arguably the best retention strategy is just having a great original product. And for us, people who have now had their cookware sets over a year, that is what really kind of makes them even eligible in the first place, right? Like we can have the best email, SMS, whatever marketing strategy. If consumers don't love their current product, they're not going to buy, no matter how much beautiful imagery we throw at them, right? And so that's kind of like the key part. And so, for us, and that's why, I think we're really proud of the products that we put out. And that's why sometimes, we know we could definitely release products a lot faster, but we don't want to release products unless they're of kind of the quality that our customers would expect of us.
I think that says so much for you guys and for your brand and like how authentic you are about making really good products, that you're just doing it and you're doing it really intentional and you're going to make really good products and you're going to put out something really great. And so your customers are going to buy it no matter how long they have to wait for it.
Yeah, and it's something we're very grateful to our customers for. And one, we're always collecting feedback on, what new products, what new product lines. We've seen some crazy ideas. We've seen a lot of consistency on others, but it's also a lot of fun. I remember when we started surveying customers about bakeware specifically after we saw how important it was, we asked an optional question of send us a picture of your cabinets. And I must have looked through 300 photos of cabinets that were incredibly messy. Some were disastrously messy. They had this bakeware that all stained and gross and stacked, and this is falling out, and the cabinet door is barely holding it in. And, when we see pictures like that, I mean, one, it validates kind of our strategy of taking a holistic view of the product and including storage. But it's also great for our before photos, when we launch the product and people, we say these are literally real kitchens. These are kitchens of our customers. They showed us how it is now. And this is why, this is the new product. This is how we designed it to be different for you. We really want to solve that problem. And so, the dialogue that we have with customers after purchase, I think has been kind of a key part of that, and one that we're, looking forward to continuing.
I'm curious now. You mentioned with the feedback that you get that you've gotten some crazy ideas.
Ooh, that's a good question. I'm struggling to have one that comes to mind.
Or one that he can share.
Or one that I can share for that matter. Yeah, let's just say that they have been all over the map, and people think, of their specific niche and what would be great for them. Because I mean, that's what we're asking. We're not asking of like, would this be, a product that many people use? And so there's definitely been a product here or there that I honestly didn't even know existed prior to reading what their response was. And some I definitely had to Google before, presenting the survey results.
That's funny. I'm also curious on a more, serious note, how do you collect that feedback? So is it mainly through surveys that you send out via emails or SMS after a purchase, or, what avenues do you explore with that?
Yeah, primarily email-based surveys. We have a pretty substantial portion of our buyer base opted into SMS right now as well. So that's something we'll also be exploring. But yeah, we really do try to collect as much quantitative and qualitative data as possible. And as our customer base has grown, we've been sending this to larger and larger segments of our base. And a huge portion want to respond, which is what's really interesting is, we'll send them a survey, we'll most likely offer, a raffle of a gift card or something like that. But, a huge portion, just like when a new product comes out, are responding right away. So like if I launch the bakeware survey, I hit send, right? I believe in less than, I don't know, a couple hours, we literally have hundreds of responses of people who are they seem to drop what they're doing just to, provide their feedback. And that's so cool. And it allows us also to do these surveys pretty quickly and get the results and turn around maybe a follow-up survey or things like that. And so that's been really cool to see as well.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I forget where I first heard it, so I'll fact check it. But it was a podcast that I was listening to, and I'm a fanatic for psychology. And one of the tidbits they shared was if you ask people to give their opinion, then usually they're more than willing to do so because they just like it's our nature to want to tell people what we're thinking. So that lines up pretty well with collecting feedback and customers wanting to share like, oh, I have this idea, as crazy as it is, or as niche as it is, this is what I'm thinking, or this is what I really like, what I don't like. And that very much is similar to what you're saying of you get a lot of engagement pretty quickly from those surveys.
Exactly, exactly. I think listening to customers, well, it's a cliche. It's hard to overstate how important it is. When we were early on as a business and we didn't have a ton of creative, to run on for Facebook ads, we're still figuring out what messaging works. We relied pretty heavily on reviews. And, at the beginning, I remember, building the Facebook ads myself. We would take UGC of, customer submitted, pictures and videos that they sent in of their new cookware that they love so much, and the reviews, which are incredibly, some are incredibly verbose in how they describe their experience with their cookware. And so we would literally take those, we'd take the UGC, we'd take the review, run it as an ad, throw it in an email, pulled it into Google Shopping. And that really helped build a lot of our initial marketing foundation. And, we had our brand copy, we were refining our messaging points, but just showing customers what other customers voluntarily told us. And that's kind of the approach we've taken with everything.
Mm-hmm. And along with that messaging, you had mentioned earlier about the intentionality behind the back order messaging and optimizing for that. So what does that messaging look like?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost is the transparency aspect. I think what would have maybe worked in the short term but backfired a bit later would be, if we essentially just like hide it, maybe put it in small, at the bottom of an email, or, very small asterisk somewhere. And so, myself, I worked very closely with our head of operations and head of CX to really, look at the entire experience and be transparent. Okay, this is when it's shipping, and carry that forward so that later there isn't any complaints. We try to be a little conservative, so most likely they're going to receive it early as well, which is also, a nice little surprise and delight there. But I do think customers appreciate that transparency, and it also drives urgency, right? We're saying this is when it'll arrive, most likely, but also, an example of bakeware, we already sold out of the batch before this that was shipping, 3 weeks earlier. So, it kind of pushes them to say, okay, well, I don't want this batch to sell out. I want to buy a part of this batch. And so it kind of has the dual function of there of, being very transparent, like, we want to do, but also conveying that urgency.
And I think what goes so hand in hand with that is also trying to understand the customer and put yourself in their shoes. So as we can use the bakeware example again of as you're preparing to launch this new product, how do you then try and anticipate what your customers are going to want and need in terms of that communication, but then also with the product line?
Yeah, I think we rely pretty heavily, one, of course, when we discuss it internally, we have some, pretty open dialogue of questions, so on one end, our CEO who knows the bakeware backwards and forwards, right? He'll present it to the team, and then we'll ask all these questions, most of which she's thought of, but of course there's always something here or there. And so we kind of do that internally. We do chat, with friends and family, whether it be the features we're thinking of focusing on, what's important to them, in tandem with that survey data as well. And so, it's pretty scrappy to a certain extent, but we try to anticipate as much of, I guess, at the end of the day, we're consumers too. And we try to approach it of, yes, this is our marketing hat. Yes, we want to say this, but like, what do people really care about? And that's what, we've really pulled in as much feedback as possible.
That's great. I noticed too, a big part of the customer journey for Caraway is comforting your customer during the buying process, because it is, like we said, more of an investment with cookware. So I noticed that you guys have a 30-day trial period that you can try things out and like happily return your products if they aren't for you. So what was I guess what I'd like to know is what's the motivation to have that trial period so that, you can ensure to the most of your abilities that customers are happy with their Caraway products?
Yeah, I think we've taken inspiration from a lot of other brands. The mattress companies, some offer as long as a year, which is, crazy to think about. But for us, we have a product that we can't resell. So, once you receive your cookware, the cookware set box is 34 pounds, right? That's not easy to move, backwards, reverse logistics, and it's also quite expensive. So kind of separately, we do actually have, processes in place and donate, our returns. But, we really wanted to make sure that, yes, they feel comfortable with the purchase. A $400 cookware set, while, compared to perhaps some other types of cookware, maybe on the less premium side, is still a lot of money. And for, the cohorts that we're targeting, a lot of the time it is a pretty substantial purchase. And so, when we were thinking of how can we make, customers feel comfortable ahead of time, that was one of the key parts. So of course, we have the free shipping, we have that. Another big part for us has also been just our CX team, right? We have live chat on the site. If you chat in, during business hours and before and after, most likely you'll get a real person responding to you in less than a minute. And they'll answer all your questions. And one of the things that I've been so impressed with, and that's been also key to kind of the loyalty, is our customer service team will do like whatever it takes to make customers happy. And there have been cases of, one of the most common questions pre-purchase is, I can't decide what color to get. They're all so nice. And so we've literally had customer, experience representatives on our side literally just say, oh, do you mind sending us a picture of your kitchen? And like Photoshop essentially our cookware set into their kitchen, right? And it's stuff like that we do, that really, and some people see that and like, oh yeah, now I really want the sage one. And then you see, 5 minutes later, they make a purchase. And so we really do whatever we can pre-purchase to, make the customers comfortable as possible. And that, that's been like, a fun anecdote for it, but we really try and focus on it. It's been, pretty successful to date.
That is amazing. Now you're going to have everybody who listens to this sending pictures to their kitchen photoshopped in.
Yeah, well, now we're working to, bring more UGC into the site, more kitchens to show how it looks in different types of kitchens. And so, yeah, just like anything else, it's another learning channel for us. So we take that and see how we can, make it scalable.
That is a great initiative, I have to say, because the curiosity of it alone, that's great. Of just seeing, like what different colors would match your kitchen. So that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I know that is the hard choice though, is like all the colors are so pretty.
Yeah, it is a tough one. I ended up going with navy myself, but I struggled. I probably took a month to decide for my initial purchase.
Yeah.
Kudos to your team for doing that and having that dedication to Photoshop pots and pans.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and two, I think as we're talking about comforting the customers while they're in that buying process, I think we have to mention also the post-purchase side of things, that you have the resources to give to customers. And I know on your tracking page, it has the care tips of how to make sure that your cookware is, lasting as long as it should, and that you're taking care of it because it is intentionally such a premium product. And so I think that also just speaks to the lengths that Caraway goes to ensure that customers are taken care of.
Yeah, that was really important to us from the beginning. I remember building out those original email flows. And, while the customer waits for it to arrive, they see it on the tracking page now. They see it, coming to their email inbox. We're not trying to sell them with anything, right then. We're saying, hey, preemptively, here's what, you want to do. And we have one blog article, I think it's called 5 Ways to Store Your Caraway, that I think is our single most popular blog article, with thousands and thousands and thousands of hits. And yeah, customers really, really want that inspiration. They want that guidance. And, we're approaching it the same way. We want them to enjoy the product as long as possible.
And with that, I would love to end on one piece of advice, if you had to pinpoint that, you try and take with you as you're building out strategies for Caraway for your customer retention. What's one thing that you just take with you day to day, or that you'd give to someone else, perhaps just starting in this space?
Yeah, I think just be very open to testing and new ideas. I think, like I mentioned, everyone will do email, and that's the first and often the last, unfortunately, for a lot of brands, and how they approach retention marketing. And so, yeah, really think through those areas of attention for a customer of yours, and where in those attention areas can you put your brand in an authentic way. And so, I named some of the areas that we focus on. I'm sure there's more that we'll be testing, and I'm sure there's some that other brands have seen success with as well. And I think it's an evolving process. So definitely just try to think through and test and, figure out the best way to get in front of your customers there.
That's phenomenal advice. Thank you, Josh. And thank you for spending, this hour with us. It's been great just to hear about all the amazing things that Caraway is doing and that you're, helping to achieve there. So thank you for all your time.
Yeah, glad I could be here.
Thanks, Josh.
Thanks so much to Josh from Caraway for joining our series, and for the Malomo team, Sarah and Mariah, for hopping on and leading that awesome Q&A. If anyone is still listening in here, we actually have an ebook available that has all of the stories from the merchants that we're talking to throughout this series. It features tactics, metrics, breakdowns, and so much more. It's free to download. I'll link to it in the comments. And thank you for watching, and we'll see you at our next episode.